And welcome to the Variety Hour podcast. It's just the two of us this the start of this week. Me, Serge, that bloke Titus, and
me, Serge. We should say to our listeners, this is the second go you've had at the intro.
This is the second go at the intro. And it's hard to believe it's unscripted.
I told you shouldn't do it sober.
But let's just point out how excited we are. We're at that level of excitement that you only get towards the business end of the JLT series.
It's all getting pretty exciting.
It is getting right up there.
Anyone can win it.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few I'd write off.
Pretty quickly.
What about Geelong? You'd write them off? How's the fact?
Getting stuck into Geelong right off.
Oh, Geelong, they've been making a big song and dance lately about they're not just a three-man team.
Yeah.
But if you watched them yesterday, they are a three-man team.
Well, David King said they were the big winners out of the weekend because they'd uncovered some people that like new stars, and I was like, I don't know what game he was watching.
Yeah, well, there were a couple of young blokes. I can't remember one of them. Charlie Constable was the other.
Yeah,
it was his first game, and I must admit I was a bit biased. I wanted to watch Charlie because I used to play footy with his old man.
Right.
But 6 months ago he was playing school footy, so I don't think he's quite a shoe-in for round one just yet. Even though he got a fair bit of the ball yesterday.
Well. Look, it was JLT. Geelong didn't really send a strong side. The Holy Trinity was not playing.
No.
So it sort of made you kind of go, I can't really read much into this. No. The Suns, for the first time in years, looked like they wanted to actually be on a football field.
Yeah,
so that was nice.
Actually. They did.
Everyone's praising Stewie G already. It's early days. It's a bit early to sort of think the turnaround's been accomplished.
I'll turn on Dewey real quick. Don't worry about that.
Do you think he'll get on an aircraft carrier with mission accomplished on a big banner behind him?
If they win round one.
Is it too early?
Yeah, it's probably a bit early for Stewie.
Oh, it was great fun. We should thank the supporters who pay for this, even though that intro you just did. We're sorry.
You can have 5% of your money back for that crap intro.
That's right. And we should also mention I'm doing the comedy festivals, both Sydney and Melbourne. Melbourne's first, then Sydney at the end of this month.
Okay.
That kicks off.
That's coming round quickly.
Yeah, so it's I think the comedy festival kicks off the weekend of Easter this year.
Okay.
Which is an interest. That'll either mean I'll be performing in front of packed crowds or no one, because you don't know with Easter what people go away. Yeah, lots of Good Friday. Yeah, there's nothing to do. There's no sport. Might as well come along and watch me. I've even started writing the show.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. Progress, Serge.
You got 2 or 3 weeks to finish it off.
No, I've done a lot of it now, and so it's all coming together. So I'll put the link for that. So I'd love people to come down. And so it goes Melbourne, then Sydney's after that in sort of mid-April. So I'm going up there for 4 nights too. So that should be fun. One of the things while I've been actually getting things written is I've been writing while I stay up late and watch the cricket from South Africa.
I have not seen a ball bowled.
Haven't you? I was going to ask your opinion on how you think it's going.
Well, I know Australia going pretty well, but I haven't watched any of it, I've got to say.
Oh, haven't you?
No.
Oh, it was pretty good last night. It looked like the South Africa were going to fall over in about an hour, and I was quite excited about that. But look, the Australians are playing very well, but it's also offset by how badly the South Africans are playing. They're just, they're not a rubbish side, but they're playing like one. You wouldn't know it.
And explain to me the bits I have seen, like highlights packages on the news.
Yeah.
There is nobody there at the game.
Yeah, so that's
literally
the other.
Nobody.
So the first few games, there was less than few days, there was less than 4,000 people there. Yeah. And the ground holds 25,000. Yeah. And then they said, just wait for the weekend. Yeah. And then the weekend came and it, didn't really improve that much. And part of that problem was, South Africa had getting belted. But if you were just going off this single test for predicting the future of Test cricket, it would be dire. But I don't know. A lot of people said, "Well, this South Africa's a work day."
South Africa and the whites having their farms taken from them.
You think that's?
I think that might be a reaction.
No one else likes cricket. I don't know what's it could be just they're poorer there, so they're but there's parts of South Africa that's quite rich, but they can't afford to take the day off work. Australians, maybe they just haven't learnt the art of the sickie.
Maybe not.
Maybe that's their problem. Maybe we need to send over some teams to teach them.
They did have one good thing yesterday. The crowd was so lame that at the lunch break, they let the crowd onto the field to play cricket. They did, seriously.
Really?
Yeah. They let the crowd in just one half of the ground. They roped off the pitch area. But they said, you can bring your gear out there, and they put out your little Oz cricket sort of stumps and bats and what have you.
And that's what they did.
And
both of them had a hit.
Yeah, they should. They should do that at the G. You reckon you do that at the G?
Nah. Well, someone should do it. No one wants to play on that pitch, even for free. No one wants to play on that. So basically, Australia need 1 wicket tonight to win.
So why didn't they keep playing? Was it too dark?
Yeah, it just got to the end of the day.
Right.
So I must admit, I wasn't awake still at the very end.
Right.
I'd fallen asleep by then.
Right.
It was the 17th whiskey that really put me under.
Sculling on every wicket. Oh.
It was interesting to watch. They were just terrible. I can't convey how bad South Africa really were. And the Aussies were really good.
Apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mitchell Stark has been very, very good.
Yeah, really good.
This test.
Yeah, but they've all been good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whether...
Mitch Marsh, future Australian captain.
Well, we're all just living in Mitch Marsh's world. I've always said that, Serge. Yeah, no one has been a bigger fan of Mitch Marsh than me.
Never doubted Mitch Marsh.
Yeah, he's terrific. He's going to be one of the all-time greats. A few people are saying that they think they've figured out Steve Smith, but he's still playing pretty well. Yeah. And he's, whenever someone says that, he's probably going to score double ton. Yeah. So now the other bit of news that made me almost fall off my chair I was really lying on the couch when I read it. Fall off the couch, which is much harder to do when you're lying down. Last week that got announced, I think it was a Friday, is James Hird's been sounded out by Freo.
Yeah.
To potentially work for the club as I think it's a Ford coach, sort of.
No, it's an opposition
for
analyst.
Yeah, but I think of the Ford line, the Ford line, so very specific. That came out. There's been sounded out. Both Freo asked the AFL if that would be okay, and the AFL said we don't want to get in the middle of this again.
Yeah, fine. You do whatever you like.
That's right.
You can run your supplements program if you like.
I like how it's still supplements when it's like drugs.
Yeah.
It's performance-enhancing drugs. Yeah. Like it's a vast majority of the Australian sporting community have just not wanted to accept what went on.
No, there's still supplements like it's
the vitamins, but even they're just this willful, even though WADA and everything went right to the top and went through the Swiss courts and everything, it's like they're all wrong.
Yeah.
We know what really happened. So I find this. There's also been talk. The Australian AFL Coaches Association has also said that other clubs have also expressed interest in hiring him. So there's two things that just baffle me beyond. There's a few. Well, there's not just two. There's 1,000. But one, this thing of the acceptance of forgiving him, like it has to happen. Everyone talks about it. They talk about the time it should happen.
The AFL,
the time it should happen, not whether he should ever be let back in the game. It's when.
Yeah.
Like it's inevitable that we are all going to forgive him. They did the Norm Smith presentation last year, but they argued that was just based on
because of
the timing.
The year.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's by welcoming him back into the fold now, or at least saying he'll be welcomed back into the fold. That immediately gives you your time frame on how long.
Well, they already let him back in to coach.
Yeah.
It was here. I mean, that's the thing. Essendon only ever sacked Hird because the performances as a but the performances as a coach, he was terrible. Like they could stand everything else, but not the. They could stand all these young men being injected with, God knows what.
Yeah.
And the thing that to me is, even if you believe James had no knowledge of what Jank was doing, or so even if you agree totally on that stuff, or that's your view, you got to agree. Bessie was negligent.
Yeah.
Then how can a senior coach not know that his players
at the very best it was poor leadership?
Yeah, and too trusting and all that. Now, what just surprises me then is so even if you think he's completely innocent, his coaching record was horrendous.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Anyway.
I don't know why they. I mean, I guess for Freo, the Essendon coaching record under Hird actually looks pretty good at the moment. But it just baffles me. I think it sends a terrible message. And I'm consciously shocked at how people don't even go, it was, or maybe some people say, he's paid his due and he's had his hard time, he should come back. But others are like just rapt about it, like it's so exciting. Like,
paid his dues. I'm always of the thought that he didn't exactly spend 12 years breaking rocks on a chain gang.
Yeah.
He spent a year in Paris and he got his full whack paid, $1 million a year.
It was a very cold winter winter in Paris, they said.
There was no beast from the east. But, you know, and again, just going back on the leadership thing, it doesn't matter in my mind whether you're the coach of an AFL footy club or you're a CEO or whatever. If you're the top dog and you're getting paid $1 million a year, your leadership values and strengths have to be higher than anyone else's.
That's right.
And at the very worst, James Hird was guilty of poor leadership.
Yeah, and poor governance. And then I know that everyone will then say, oh, well, what about the people above him, the CEO, Ian Robinson, all these? And I'm like, well, to me, it's amazing to me that he went on and then got to run the Melbourne Victory. Yeah. And I think now he's gone on to, I don't think it's Athletics Australia, but it's one of the...
something like that.
Something
swimming?
Like... it's one of them, though. Yeah. It's one of the Olympic sports. I think he's gone on to be CEO. Yeah. I'm just like, it's amazing to me. That's amazing to me, too. Like, it's not like I'm just focused on Hird.
Did I ever tell you this? Not the Melbourne Cup last year, the one before. I ran into Ian Robson in the birdcage, and I've known Robbo for years.
Oh, of course you do.
And I said, Robbo, well, you've done well now. You know, I actually tapped it on him for some tickets to the soccer.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what he said? He said, oh, I'm just so glad to be out of that, isn't it? You know, everything that went on there, I'm just so glad to be out of it. I said, mate, you were running the joint. What do you mean you're so glad to be out of it?
That's the amazing thing to me is like either no one was running it or they were all in on it. They kind of act like it's one of the
it's like it's only a rort if you're not in on it.
Well, you know, the other thing I love, and this isn't to do with the essence of Saga, it's with any crisis, whether it's sport or not, is it's always better to have a systemic failure because that kind of means, well, no one individual. That's what the banking crisis did. All the bankers went, this is a systemic failure. Not our own individual decisions led to this. It's a systemic failure. So really can't blame any of us individually.
Although the AFL are pretty good on pointing the finger at individuals and running them out of town. But just for the short-term period, they're welcome back into the fold.
Anyway, it's astounding to me, and I know people will have the complete opposite view to me and think I'm an idiot. And
look, I'm a bit astounded. When I heard it on Friday that Freo were making him an offer to join their football department, I thought, gee, this will be a big story. Will he have to move to Perth?
Yeah,
move
but
the
it's
whole
not even that.
But it's not. He's just an opposition analyst.
Based in Melbourne.
Based in Melbourne. So whoever Freo are playing next week, he'll go to their game the week before or watch them train.
Yeah.
You know,
but at some point, I think, like, you're either fair dinkum about drugs in sport or you're not. And if someone has been involved like he has, where it ended up the players under him all ended up, whether we like it or not, WADA have convicted them and it's been upheld at the highest possible level with every legal challenge you could imagine.
Yeah.
You can't pick and choose whether you believe that or not. Like, the competition can't, I mean. They've got to, like, they either, like, stick to it or they don't. And what they've done here is they've gone, well, we'll just sort of pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah. It's like just over the last week, you know, all the hoo-ha about the Russians being kicked out of the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
And then two of the ones that were allowed to compete, but not under the Russian flag, tested positive.
Yeah.
Well, apparently now the IOC have just welcomed all Russian athletes back into the Olympic fold for the next Olympic Games. And the reason
so the
they've
bribes
done that,
finally came through.
Well, they said they've paid the fine and now they're welcome back. You know what the fine was? $19 million.
Right.
You reckon that'll pay for a few Swiss chalets and a few
so that's
briefcases full of cash.
It's an open bribe.
Oh, it's a completely open bribe.
It's not a bribe, it was a fine. That's smart.
I've got to use that from now on. It wasn't a bribe, it was a fine.
Tim Williamson wrote in, if Wayne Carey can wear a white ribbon for domestic violence on national TV, James Hird working at Freo should just be a stepping stone to him running a SADA.
It's not a bad analysis.
Only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Raf H wrote in, given next year is supposed to be another super draft, are Fremantle tanking already?
So he's suggesting that by firing Hirdy, they're going to go worse than ever.
Hirdy, despite all the, the intensity of the scandal that engulfed him, it is this thing of even if that hadn't happened, right, and he just coached to the way he coached. And I know some people say, oh, well, it was affected by this crisis, and who knows, but like, he didn't show any sign of being an amazing coach. Yeah. So, and even if you hadn't had the scandal, it doesn't matter in the AFL. You always get another try or get picked up by another club. It's one area where bad performance doesn't seem to be an indicator of future performance.
Just ask Rodney Heat.
He's jumped on Twitter. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I noticed last week, and he's come out swinging a few times too.
He's reminds me
he's
of
got
like
the ball and he's
He reminds me of a teenager in the days of One Direction at the start on Twitter who just suddenly finds that they tweet every 20 seconds.
Yeah. No, I saw that. I started following him immediately.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did he follow you back?
Not yet.
Another thing that just shows the world's gone completely crazy is that the AFL have announced a whole host of new rules for the start of pre-game and how the game day will be run. And one of them is they've banned pre-game warm-ups
on the ground.
So they come out and do the warm-up as a team. Well, that's now been banned.
But why is that? What's their reason for that?
Their rationale is to make time for either curtain raisers or pre-game entertainment.
Right. So they're making way for new pre-game entertainment. Have they suggested what that pre-game entertainment might be, or they haven't thought that through?
No, but what it will be is and I guarantee it will be this. It will be what's known in the industry as sponsorship activations,
right?
Which is like giving up, like, hold up your banner if you want ING banner, and like whoever will win 5K and throwing stuff in. Some idiot spins around on a baseball bat brought to you by whatever the sponsor is.
Oh, it's like at Melbourne games. You want to take a hanger over Robbo.
Yeah,
brought to you
and
by
you win a Range Rover.
It's
sort of
for a cheese platter.
So it's kind of bizarre, like that they are reading into this. And I tweeted out, soon there'll be. I said they're banning they're getting rid of it, not allowing clubs to do it. So it means they have to do all their warm up in the rooms. Yeah. They're allowed to 2-3 hours before the game go out and kick the ball around on the ground, but it means they can't come out that half an hour before. There. Well, not during that half hour before where they used to come out and then they'd go off and come back out. And so I tweeted, it's only a matter of time before, they start eating into game time for some sponsorship thing. And Ollie Wines liked the tweet.
Ollie Wines did.
Which makes me just think, the AFL players, they're going, the purpose of football is football.
Yeah.
I want my players warmed up to be in to have been out on the ground. That's the purpose of the warm up. To say, instead of warming up the players properly, if injuries go up, or it's just, they'll probably just say, it's not actually that important. But
know what they're doing here.
But getting the feel of the ground, how the wind's blowing, getting out in front of, for away teams too, it's kind of important. I just think it's madness. I think it's another example of the AFL just completely losing the focus of what the bloody point of what they are there to do, which run a football competition. They're not
and the other thing
they're not a content provider
the
or a
game warm up. I know most of the clubs, the players wear a different outfit because that gives the sponsors some more exposure. But I also know with the kids love it because they go down, they get down by the fence and by the race, and the players come out. And the players are a bit more relaxed, so they high five all the kids, and all that sort of stuff. It's I just can't see the downside to having the pre-match warm up.
But also the other thing is Look, I can understand if they're bringing back curtain raisers, but they haven't said what curtain raisers they're going to be. And the other bit
there's no reserves, there's no resis anymore.
No, so how exciting is it going? Who's going to go? I'm going to get there early because a guy's going to spin around on a baseball bat and try and run in a straight line. They're not going to be putting anything on that adds to the game day.
No t-shirt cannons.
The game day atmosphere, as they always bang on. No in any way, shape, or form that will improve the day.
No, it's
will
exactly
be no
right.
better.
It cannot possibly improve the match day experience for the fans. it's just madness.
It's so AFL,
and it's. I reckon from a football point of view, it's bad for the players and the coaching staff and all that. And again for the supporters, I remember you go to a Melbourne game, you go, gee, Watsy looks on song today. He's in for a big one today.
No one ever said that.
By quarter time, that's untrue. But
it reminds me of the thing, and
Jeffy Garlett's going to be hot
today. We've used this analogy with the AFL before. They're like that hospital in the UK in the Yes Minister show that ran at its peak optimised before it opened.
Yeah.
No, so because it doesn't have patients, it's running beautifully. AFL would like to run the game without players and fans, probably.
Yeah, because just like that Yes Minister episode when he was explaining it to the minister, he said, you've got to understand, Minister, doctors, nurses, administration staff, anaesthetists, these all cost money, And if we don't have to invest there, the whole place works at its absolute most efficient. and you're dead right. The AFL would prefer just a stadium full of people buying...
That they can put sponsors in front of.
And paying ridiculous amounts for
They basically
chips.
want to run a trade show.
Yeah.
They're in the wrong business. Let's not give them any ideas.
Oh.
Erin Phillips playing for Adelaide yesterday.
She's a good player there.
She's a very good player, and she didn't play the whole game. This was against Carlton, and they beat Carlton quite handily because it's Carlton. This was at Norwood Oval on Saturday night. But it was interesting. She went off. She got benched before half time, and they said, "Oh, why was she benched?" And they said it was because she had some. I think it was quad awareness.
Quad awareness. Yeah, I heard that. What's quad awareness?
So she's aware that she has a quad.
She has two quads.
She suddenly, can you imagine like halfway through the game, she just suddenly had this like existential crisis of going, "Oh my God, I've got quads."
Yeah, quad awareness.
So they said quad awareness was the reason she was...
So I'm waiting for Angus Brayshaw to come off with concussion awareness.
Yeah, I'm not actually
brain awareness.
I was just aware of it. I suppose they said she's such a good athlete and played for so long. She played WNBA and all sorts of things. She's a terrific athlete across multiple sports, that she just knew that if she kept playing, something was going to happen, and she knows her body that well.
Yeah, but it used to be tightness or something. You feel a bit. He felt some tightness in his calf or his hamstring, so he came off. But now tightness has become awareness.
I wonder why, like, she was smart enough to see that and speak up, and like when there must be a lot of players that is Daniel Wells ever get aware that he's about to have an injury? Because he should, because he's playing. You should be aware that one's right around the corner.
That's very true.
One of the other things that happened, I went to the Melbourne Family Day yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I had to I had to kidnap a family to go, but went down to that, and can I just tell you the excitement when the AFL Premiership team was presented?
Oh, right. Did they have that
to the faithful?
The trophy?
They didn't really do that. Which was a real shame. It was really a good day, actually. I mean, I think all the family days for any club are good days.
They do. I mean, for all our
cynicism,
they actually do those pretty well, most of the clubs.
They do, and one thing I thought was really good is they had the AFL women's team there and the men's team, and they were very accessible. Long lines to get signatures, but the kids were going crazy. And the women's team was getting in, and it was great. Like to see, there's so many young girls in like jumpers and stuff getting signed stuff, and that you realise the impact it has at that level.
That's good, isn't it?
But Max Gawn got up and he talked about how he's still angry over the way Melbourne missed out on the finals last year.
Fair enough.
I said, "Oh yeah. You and me both, Maxie." He said he sat alone and angry in a dark room to watch the West Coast beat Adelaide, which is the next day.
Relate to that.
That's how I watch every game. That's every Melbourne game. I don't know. When he said that, like, that was meaningful. I was like, mate, that's how we all watch them. But he said they're going to harness that anger to propel them forward in 2018. And I thought, they could go to Pluto if they harness the anger towards that. They'll win the next 20 premierships.
See,
if you could actually harness anger.
Their unharnessed anger caused them enormous strife last year. Just ask,
Bargain
Lewis.
He was there signing... Who,
Bug?
Bug was signing... They had him in a Silence of the Lambs mask.
Strapped to a
trolley. To a gurney, They'd wheel him in. That would actually have been quite funny if they'd done that.
They should, give them an idea.
So anyway, he said that's what they're going to use. They're going to use the anger. Look, I wish over time, if Melbourne could actually harness the anger we have towards the way they've performed over the last decade, we would be right. But it seems we can't really do that.
I just talking about the teams. On my way to Studio Titus this morning, I drove past the Punt Road Oval.
See, every time all last year, you have assessed clubs on how they are when you pass by quickly in a car.
When I drive down Punt Road.
So you said once last year, I went past and Melbourne were training, Richmond weren't even training.
Yeah.
Like, they won the premiership last year.
They're not taking it seriously.
You were saying, well, they could have just been doing it at a different time.
Well, this morning the Tigers were training.
Yeah.
The thing that caught my eye was almost the entire old Jack Dyer stand was full of supporters.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, get over yourselves, will you?
Nah.
You know?
Oh, no. I went to the family day and we didn't even make finals.
That's true.
I can understand that. I mean, this is the best time to be
a supporter,
a Tiger supporter. I mean, this is just great stuff if you're a Tiger supporter. I mean, the rest of us hate them, but
I mean, I hate Carlton, but geez, I hope Carlton give them a touch up in that first round. How funny would that be? I can't see that.
I can't see that happening. I got Conrad Marshall coming in to have a chat about his book.
Oh, yeah,
about the Tigers premiership, which I've been told by Richmond supporters.
Yeah,
I'm actually just started reading it. To them, it's like a holy book.
Yes. Oh, it would be.
They like pray on it at night. A few of them said to me, "It's the best book. It's the best book ever written, Titus." And I say, "Well, I'm sure it's a very good book, but I sense you're a bit biased here."
Well, a mate of mine who's a mad Tiger, he bought about 8 copies of it, and used it for Christmas present.
Did you give it to non-Tigers?
Yes, that was his thing. He gave it to non-Tigers.
Sort of like rubbing it in.
Yeah, it was. He's an ordinary unit.
I like that sort of people buying gifts just to slag someone off or just to annoy them. Yeah. I think that's how my book sold so well. I'm looking forward to having him in. The other thing we should mention is it's sort of the Premier's been out. Daniel Andrews in Victoria been talking about this morning, and I haven't heard if the New South Wales Premier's been out on it yet, but there's been a bit of a few people coming out. It says experts, but whenever you read into it, it's always some interest group. And this is the Australian Institute, which is a great name for an institute because if you don't know what they do or who they stand for, can you be against the Australia Institute? They're all named like that. Yeah. Like, it's very hard to sort of, the Good Things Institute. Yeah. How can you be against us?
It's like the Human Rights Commission. They may make mistakes here and there, but who could argue fundamentally?
Yeah, it's hard to go up against them.
Well, it's not the NRA.
Well, you do. You don't believe humans should have rights.
No, I'm an NRA guy.
Oh, you're an NRA guy. Good moment to announce that. I don't think we should add that to joke. You've only shot one person, and that was and if you heard the reason, they were asking for it.
I got away with self-defence, but I was just a good lawyer. Lawyer I used to go to school with.
It's come out this morning that the AFL and NRL, they're not. The Australian Institute have come out and said that basically they should be paying more tax because they are tax exempt in the main, and that they therefore should having to be paying taxes because they should be helping to fund infrastructure that they use, like stadiums, everything with taxpayers. And there's a big debate going on up in New South Wales about knocking down Amy Stadium and Allianz.
Spending $2.5 billion on new ones.
$2.5 billion and knock them down and rebuild them, which I'm all for. Yeah. Because
knocking down. No need to rebuild them.
Because salt the earth that they stand on. But the minute we start prioritising health and education over sport in this country, we might as well just give up. Yeah. We might as well just return it to the original owners, and we should just leave because we've just forgotten what we're about. And so up there, they're having a massive argument, all because they want to save sick kids. And I mean,
just have a telethon. It works for us.
All I'm saying is, do we have to save all of them? Like, there's a balance. Right, is all I'm saying.
Now, explain this to me.
So they don't pay taxes.
This is a bit I want you to explain.
They're exempt, much like...
Why are they exempt? Why is the AFL exempt from paying taxes?
Because in the original... And it goes back to... decision makings from 81 years ago, which is a provision that's allowed volunteer and community organisations to pay no tax in exchange for them providing facilities and to encourage sports participation. So this is why instead of the government having to fund like things around health and various things, it's 81 years ago too. So these weren't billion-dollar industries at the time. They were just... It's a bit like with religion too. Religions get the same or similar exemptions.
And 81 years ago, there was no poker machines.
That's right.
Owned by the...
there wasn't the ability just to rob people legally. So it's an 81-year-old thing. So they're saying, well, this is a long time ago. Now these companies really should have to pay at least their fair share of tax. because they're coming out cap in hand all the time, wanting taxpayer dollars to fund their various things, right? Now, the flip side of that is these industries employ a lot of people and and have cultural worth beyond what a normal what a normal business has. So that would be the counter argument. Daniel Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, in his press conference got up and said, because they asked him about it, they said, are you thinking of changing the tax exemptions around sporting organisations like the AFL and religion, they asked, because religions get similar. And also George Pell's in the court this morning, so that was sort of what the theme. And he said, no, we are not even considering or looking at changing the tax rules around either religion or the AFL. He didn't really need to actually say that because the AFL is a religion. Exactly. So it's just religions as a whole is basically not being looked at. So they're not looking at doing any taxes for that. But
that's good because,
because the National Football League have given up their tax-free exemption that they had in the state.
I mean, you can imagine if the AFL was suddenly having to pay tax. Could you imagine the uproar in there?
Well, I think the one thing, though, that where the governments, New South Wales and state governments and various governments could actually put a bit of pressure on both the NRL and the AFL is to say, okay, you got your tax exemption, which we give you, which we can remove. So they've got a stick to whack them with, right?
Got a good.
They've got a carrot and a stick there to say, we want to see we don't want you're a community organisation, therefore, because if you're not, you shouldn't be getting the tax exemption. So therefore, let's have a look at where you're spending the money. Like, why are you having something in Hong Kong for AFLX? Why aren't you investing that in grassroots or infrastructure? Why are you paying why is your exec salary growing at a rate that's, there's a bunch of things that the government could actually use a level of prove you're a community organisation, prove your bona fides around that. Why are you ripping so much money out of people through pokie machines?
For every $1 million that you're about to, give as a payoff to a disgraced executive.
Yeah. Why are you doing international rules? Like, there's 1,000 things that if you're a community-based organisation, you would point to and go, well, why are you doing that? Justify your.
And it would be very difficult for them to justify themselves as a community-based organisation.
Well, I think. In fairness to them, they'd have some things they'd have a lot of what they were doing, which would be, right? Like, they would, but there'd be a couple of those. I just feel at the moment with the AFL that they're doing, when you think about it, the last 2 AFL seasons have been very entertaining, I think. The standard of play, I believe, has been exciting. Yeah. And I think having teams that don't always win and having sort of fairy tale finishes has been interesting. The ratings are up. People going, the AFLW has been great. So actually, I'm not a doom and gloom person. I think overall football's been going in a pretty good direction. But I do feel there's a couple of things like AFLX, the amount of money going into Gold Coast and the Giants, while Tasmania is in trouble, and you're still not even really locking down Brisbane properly, and
the pre-match warm-up.
Well, stuff like that. I just feel like there's a bit of a lack of focus on, I guess, what a marketing or business person would say, core business.
There seems to be an enormous lack of what would be called, in a personal sense, self-awareness about the AFL and a lot of these things, I reckon. They just don't see, this isn't in all the cases, but in some cases, they don't see either the big picture or understand how the general public or the footy fans view them on a lot of these things. Yeah. They just don't get that. And
I don't think I think they convince themselves too, though, that they're always under attack. So therefore, being attacked over AFLX, for example, is like, well, you're not getting it because it's been popular with some people and it's popular with TV networks. So therefore, you can all jump in a lake, rather than going, we get that this looks bad in the context of all the other stuff that's happening, and working to actually explain to people that they're either separate or they're not taking money out of the mouths of Tasmanian footy teams or whatever. Like, they got to explain that to people.
That's part of what I'm saying. That there's the lack of self-awareness, but there is also there is the lack of the inability to explain their
and bring everyone and bring people with them. You know what I mean?
That's where they're hopeless.
Winx won again on the weekend, which means we all got a big payday. Yeah, because the odds are great.
I read somewhere on, I don't know if you saw it, on if you Winx's first ever race.
Yeah.
If you'd put $10 on it first race, and then put $10 on every race since.
Just $10 or reinvest your winnings as well?
Reinvest your winnings.
Yeah. So just kept putting your winnings back into it.
And your winnings
like a share paying dividends to you, and instead of taking the dividend, you just put it back into the shares.
You'd have over 220 grand now.
That's good. So if we could go back in time, a la Back to the Future, we'd be fine.
Yeah. Just get on Winx 23
Well, it raced on the weekend in the Chipping Norton Stakes, which I know is one of your favourite.
One of the great
races. Won by 7 lengths. Absolutely did it easily. Actually went wide on the corner and just.
You could just see she just drifted out on the corner into the straight.
Yeah, wasn't even trying really to and then was just gone.
And then just bang, put the foot
all the
down.
jockey was doing is making sure that there was no chance of being blocked as they got into the straight. That was basically it. And once that was in, it was over.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It is a ridiculously better horse than everything else going around.
Imagine being the jockey on some donkey that either blocked Winx and stopped it from winning. Yeah.
But do you think it's a bit like watching, a Formula One car race? Not even V8s, go-karts. It's not really it's not really very fair. It means that Winx could set up a June appointment at Royal Ascot, which could be the next thing. What do you reckon?
Well, everyone would love to see her go over there and beat the Poms on their home track.
Yeah.
But also, there is now some talk that she might try and go for the 4th Cox Plate in a row. Which
no one's ever done.
No one's ever done.
Kingston
and if they set her for the 4th Cox Plate, for the Cox Plate this year, it probably means she won't go to Ascot.
Yeah. What are you leaning towards? What would you recommend?
I'd rather her win 4 Cox Plates in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty amazing. Although going over there and winning would be pretty.
Why can't they do both?
Why don't they never in the Melbourne Cup?
Yeah, exactly.
That's our knowledge of racing coming to the fore.
The grand final sprint.
Actually, that would be halftime entertainment I'd watch. Winx racing a bunch of AFL footballers and some guy from a local club.
Rookies that no one's ever heard of.
That'd be entertaining at least. Kyle Chalmers, the swimmer.
Remind me, Kyle Chalmers.
Well, he's the swimmer. You won 100 metres freestyle in Rio.
Oh, I did too.
It says here it was in the paper, it was one for the ages, which obviously by your reaction it wasn't.
I was trying to remember who won the 100 because I knew it wasn't James Magnuson. He just talked himself up.
God, he just talk.
Oh, he just does not shut up.
And he just got no self-awareness to what everyone thinks of him.
I mean, we've said this before, it's all very well talking yourself up if you've got the runs on the board.
Yeah, if you're Muhammad Ali.
Yeah,
that's like, you got to be like Muhammad Ali level, or Michael Jordan level. If you're going to trash talk, you got to come through.
But you can't talk yourself up that much if you haven't won an Olympic gold medal.
No, I mean...
But Kyle Chalmers has.
Yeah, well, he has, and he's not talking himself up. Now, he's actually put a lot of his sort of success and keeping the stress away and being able to focus on his obsession with reptiles. And I'll tell you what's interesting about him that you don't get from every sports person. While we know him, or you don't know him at all, as you've just revealed. No, we didn't even know what he did. What most of us know him as winning the 100-metre freestyle in Rio. He's from South Australia. He also runs, as a sideline to keep himself sort of interested, the Instagram account, Blue Tongues of Adelaide.
Blue Tongues. So these are the reptiles
I'm just going to add quickly, the blue tongue reptiles. So he treats them
because I'll warn you, if you just Google blue tongues, it might come up something else.
They live in his garage. He's got 16 of them, and he takes them out for little excursions and does photo shoots with them. And it's a very popular Instagram account.
Does he dress them up?
I don't know. I haven't been on it. I was a bit nervous to Google it, actually. And he's got all the super rare ones. He's got albinos. He's got a license for it all. He says he's made mates from all around Australia. He catches up with them and chats them on the phone and in the forums just to discuss lizards.
I didn't know there was such a big blue tongue community.
Yeah, he said, I formed a lot of friends in the lizard community. It's a great community. I have friends all around Australia. I'll catch with them and they know me as Adelaide Blue Tongues. That's how they know him.
Not blokes who dress up in lizard suits and go to conventions. Is that kind of lizard?
I'm assuming it is. So that's kind of an interesting. It's a guy, sort of marching to a different beat, don't you think?
Good on him, Kyle.
Good on you, Kyle. Yeah. I like that story though. I like someone that's doing something so weird. Are you going to sign up to Adelaide Blue Tongues Instagram page?
Right after.
Do you know what Instagram is?
I know Instagram. Don't worry about that. I'll be going straight to Blue Tongues Adelaide. And we've got Kyle Chalmers, the Lizard King.
The Lizard King, there you go. Something very exciting over the weekend that broke. The MCG could host one of the largest ever pro wrestling events, with the WWE possibly coming to Melbourne for a pay-per-view show in early October. Visit Victoria, which is the tourism body, so they're going to sign a contract shortly, with the official announcement to be made at WrestleMania 34, which is on April 8 in New Orleans. I know you're going to be there. I would, but I'm doing the comedy festival. And it's set to be held the week after the AFL Grand Final, so either October 6th or 7th. I kind of wonder whether... They say it'll be a crowd over 100,000 because they'll be able to put seats on the ground, but scheduling an outdoor event in October...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is WrestleMania as big as it used to be? I guess it must be if they're thinking of selling.
It's still very big. I mean, wrestling sort of went through that early 80s boom with Hulk Hogan and the early WrestleManias. Yeah. Then it really sort of struggled a bit in the early to mid-90s. Then, of course, as you're well aware, really ignited under the Monday Night wars between WCW and WWE. Then really once the Attitude Era kicked in under Stone Cold and you had The Rock and all that, really boomed.
You're right across your pro wrestling.
But since then, you got to say, it's become a bit more family friendly, but also a bit more banal and a bit more boring. And they don't really have any great stars. There's John Cena, who's, they're trying to make Roman Reigns a big star, and no one in the wrestling fan
villains?
cares.
They always used to have great.
They don't have really a lot going on at the moment.
Theatrical villains.
Is my sort of from afar view.
Right.
They're not the days of Stone Cold and The Rock.
MCG, it will be a far view, won't it?
Well, I was about to say, I went to the UFC that was out here where Ronda Rousey got beaten by Holly Holmes. Etihad. Yeah. And I had pretty good seats. I was on the floor and I was about I wasn't ringside or anything, but I was like not too far back. And I could see okay. Yeah. And they had big screens and everything. But you wouldn't have wanted to be much further back than I was, right? And I was literally like, I don't know how many rows it was, but I would have been maybe like 100 rows back, which sounds a lot, but it's actually not that much on the floor, right? If you were up, I took a walk around in the earlier matches, and I went up onto sort of the back of, Eddie had the bottom deck. Yeah. I went up to sort of the back of that to get some food and looked back. And I could barely see the ring from there. So if you're up on the fourth level or something, you're basically watching the screen. You paid it. So the idea of it being at the MCG with this tiny little wrestling ring in the middle, I just don't know why you would bother. Like, I can understand if you know what I mean? I mean, apart from, I guess, it's the experience and everything.
I certainly can't see it being a big success. I know.
I reckon it will be a big success, but I don't know,
A mate of mine they did one of these a few years ago. It wasn't obviously the G. And I don't think it was Etihad, but it was a fairly large outdoor arena. He said the thing that really lost it for him, the atmosphere, was there's no commentary.
Right.
He said they just wrestle, and you haven't got the commentators yelling and screaming throughout the whole thing. So he said it was.
He just likes the commentators yelling and screaming.
He said it had no atmosphere whatsoever because you were just watching what was happening on the screen,
right?
And without getting all of the yelling and screaming,
right? So it wasn't. They didn't love it.
No.
Well, it's not. I mean, I just like to see. It's not the. Given the outcome of the last two grand finals, it won't be the first scripted sport on the MCG. You can't tell me that's coincidence.
No. 3 years back.
And if Melbourne win this year, or St Kilda, you know it's as rigged as it gets.
Yeah. 3 fairy tales and the wrestling.
This is a race I would have liked to have seen. It is on YouTube, but so I've watched it afterwards. But I would have loved to see it live. There was a first time in the World Indoor Championships, which occurred on Friday, which I know you've been watching all over. There's a 400 metres race. It was a heat to get into the final. And what happened was every single competitor in the race was disqualified.
I love this.
Every single one. So no one got through on this heat at all.
What did they all do?
Well, first, there was one runner at the very start who was disqualified making a false start, and it was the World Outdoor bronze medalist from Qatar 2017.
So he's no good inside.
So he was red carded for a false start.
Yeah.
Which reduced the field a fair bit. Then the other three runners, there was only 3 others running in it, they all at some point went slightly outside of their lanes, meaning every single runner was disqualified. It was shambles. That's like the AFL sprint there.
Yeah, ready, steady, have a cigarette. Yeah.
So that's basically the Bradbury event, except Bradbury fell over too.
Even Bradbury got disqualified.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's great. That is just terrific.
That's my kind of sport. Now, getting some listeners' questions. Dylan Walton wrote in, if the Football Federation of Australia is short of money, which we know they are, should they just legalise flares and buy a BCF franchise? Boating, camp and fishing.
Boating, camp and flaring.
Flaring. It's got a good point, Dylan, actually. Set up the market, but then sell to the market.
Yeah, exactly.
There has been talk of if you actually allowed them to set off flares, it would take a lot of the excitement out of it, and you just have areas where you could do it where there's some safety equipment or something.
Oh, could you imagine the insurance, the public liability, as if it's better to let them burn themselves and kick them out than to encourage them to do it legally.
It's weird though how it's a cultural thing. I know it's happened at the AFL. It happened at a game in Adelaide on the Hill last year, I think. But it's interesting how...
But that's Adelaide. They use them for light.
Not anymore. They're the one of the few that actually has lighting now. But when you think about it, it could just as easily be a thing that happens in the AFL or any sport. But it's just purely a cultural thing. No one... They hold on to it in the football, but in AFL, no one really cares that much.
A flare's a big problem in international soccer, like EPL and the Europeans.
I don't know if the EPL is a bigger deal, but I know watching some of the South American football, there's some if you YouTube some of there's some
crazy
because some of them they do it legally there. It's totally legal. So literally every person in the stadium has lit a flare. It's just crazy. It's actually kind of interesting. There you're a rebel if you don't have a flare.
Maybe that's what they should do in Sydney instead of demolishing Amy Stadium.
What, let them burn it down?
Let them burn it down with
flares.
Bring a flare and burn the joint down.
Gavin Howley wrote in, is it true Eddie Maguire has hired 2 people to wheel a whiteboard around in front of Nathan Buckley for the next 7 to 8 months? I love that image of that whiteboard.
Is this Michaela Cash talking about? That is the funniest thing. I mean, we see every week the politicians seem to do something stupider and stupider in this country and lower themselves in our eyes. But that Michaela Cash thing the other day, okay, she said something stupid. She should have apologised better. But to bring out the whiteboard the next day to stop the media from filming her going into the Senate committee was just... Whose idea was that?
Oh, it's
and who signed off on that?
Oh, it's hilarious. Oh. It's making... the sporting bodies look really well run.
Oh, exactly. And so if Colin would do it, Bucks at least for the next 7 hours, it'll just be writing, side bottom on the whiteboard, go forward.
Brent Faulkner wrote in, who's more delusional? Kevin Bartlett claiming Richmond will win 5 flags in a row, which I haven't heard him say that.
No, I think he said it on SEN last week.
Yeah, you were on his show, so you would know better than me. Or Brad Scott believing that Magic Door still has a lot of untapped potential.
Oh, 6-1, I reckon there. Both of them.
I give Richmond a much higher chance of winning 5 premierships in a row than Magic Door becoming a good footballer.
Yeah,
he seems to me to be an okay VFL footballer.
Yeah, he seems to play well at a lower level.
And that's where he's got to.
And that's fine. I mean,
and they're putting him at full back. I don't know.
He was getting...
It's a small sample size, but Petrarca killed him when they
exactly.
played.
With Petrarca, who's about a foot smaller than him, was...
leading him out and back.
Yeah, get him back in the ruck, in the VFL.
They'd have stuck with him. My favourite Brad Scott comment going into this season was Jared Waite has his best footy ahead of him. He's 34.
He's 50 years old. Yeah.
To me, that was just astounding. Like, why would you even... Why
would you even say that? Yeah.
I know coaches have to say, like, they can't say, yeah, he's rubbish or, his best days
say that about a 21-year-old. Yeah.
But you could have just said, no, we're really hopeful Jared have a good year, right? Fine. Yeah. But his best football's ahead of him.
If he plays for most of the season and averages 2 or 3 goals a week, he'll have done his job.
Yeah, that's right.
For it.
That's right. That won't happen. Shannon Anthony Hall has written, I don't want to overreact, but after the last game, I'm convinced this is the last game in the GLT last night. I'm convinced the Suns are premiers and will all be playing for second. Can you convince me otherwise?
I can't convince you, Shannon. I reckon you're right.
You're going with it?
Yeah, I'm going with that. The Suns... There's the third fairy tale in a row. The Gold Coast.
Yeah, everyone's just hanging for that one.
There's been Gold Coast supporters been waiting decades for a flag.
I can't. I mean, Geelong did look terrible, but you can't read anything into it really. I don't think they were trying that hard. No. They were resting pretty much every. I think some clubs took the AFLX more seriously than Geelong took that game.
Yeah, true.
But like. Gold Coast have had talent. If they played like just with a slight... I mean, I'm not saying there's something going to ratchet up into the 8, but they couldn't have played with more like lackluster than they have been.
If Stewie Dew can get a bit of desperation into their game, I mean, they will improve.
Stewie Dew's done the thing you want to do all throughout your career, which is always follow someone who is rubbish into a job. Never follow someone who is good.
And the other thing, get fat after you retire. Stewie's had a good crack at that one.
You reckon that's the key to life? That is probably the key to happiness. So Michael Barbaro wrote in, do strippers in the southern hemisphere spin around poles in the opposite direction as strippers in the northern hemisphere?
Let me answer that, Michael.
You're
Look, from what I can gather, for a 10 or a 20, they'll spin either way you like. For a 50, they'll spin on your lap.
So
put it that way.
That's that famous. I've heard that famous Simpson episode too, where they say that the water spins differently.
Yeah.
I've heard that's just not true.
I think it is true.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've got to go. Well, you need to go and science. We need to go and look into that.
Oh, I think it's to do with gravity and the.
Here we go.
The moon or the tides or something like that.
And star signs.
Yeah, I don't know why we brought that up.
We get some of the great questions. Rhombus Isotope, long-term friend of the show, writes an interesting one. Is Serge responsible for Barney being unsure of paternity?
Oh, not guilty there, Robert.
God, did he talk about throwing someone under the bus?
Oh, why did he say that?
It's just, the whole thing is just... Like, it's like...
This is what I'm saying. This politics just keeps getting sillier and sillier by the week.
Just when you think this... If you wrote this into a plot... Like, if you're writing an episode of House of Cards or something, and you wrote this storyline, it would be rejected on the bounds.
Would go, come on, that's just getting too
This is stupid. Just unbelievable.
But how's that, he's come out and said, I'm having, a baby, with a new partner. Yeah, she used to work for me. And then he comes out a week later and says, it's the media's fault. The media, if you were any good, you'd ask me if it was mine. But that's not even occurred to anybody. But then a few journos
have come out and pointed out they did ask. Yeah. So it's not even...
And now he's going, I don't know, I was overseas when it was conceived.
How long till he becomes the key spokesperson for the AFL? It's only a matter of time. The AFLX was a huge success.
Yeah. Oh, Barnaby.
All the Chinese fans were in the marquee getting a drink. Yeah, it just looked like there wasn't anyone there.
Oh, Barnaby, geez. Isn't he finished?
No, he's going to come back, I'm sure. St Kilda are going to hire him. Join Simon Lethlean. Oh, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. We'll be back later in the week, and let's hope the Suns don't just sweep all before them this season.
Yeah, let's hope not.
See you later.